Hey everyone, it's Jake with Numark, and today I'm going to walk you through all of the features of the NS4FX 4-deck professional DJ controller. Let's start with the mixer section. As you can see, we have 4 channels of audio control, each with its own volume slider, filter knob, 3-band EQ with full kill, and level control. We also have a quick launch effects section in the middle, where you can quickly select Serato effects, adjust the dry, wet, or beat division, and latch them on with the toggle flipping up or temporarily enable by pressing the toggle down. Now these effects are all post fader as well, so I can drop the volume fader and the effect will trail off. If I needed to, I can also tap in the tempo of the effect. Now on the lower section of the mixer, we have our volume controls. So we have our Q gain knob and also our Q mix knob, which will adjust between Q, which will allow us to hear any source we have selected with the Q buttons, or I can adjust it to program, which will allow me to monitor the mix that is going out over the main outputs. Up top, we have our library controls, so we can scroll through our Serato tracks by scrolling with the knob, and we can load to our decks by pressing either the L or R buttons. If we want to instant double to a side, we just double click the R or L button and that will instant double the track from the other side to that deck. Next, let's talk about the professional inputs and outputs. First, let's talk about the outputs. We have a set of XLR outputs for the main out and a set of RCA booth outputs for a monitor or a separate zone of a sound system. The NS4FX features 24-bit high-quality audio, so you can take this thing to a club, any mobile event, and it's going to sound superb, especially when using these XLR outputs. On the back of the NS4FX, we also have a mic 1 input, that's a 1/4-inch input, that can be switched over to a line input, which will utilize these RCA inputs. Independent control over level and tone is featured here as well. On the front of the NS4FX, we have crossfader assign switches. Now this is a great feature that allows you to either assign a channel to side A of the crossfader, side B of the crossfader, or bypass the crossfader altogether. So you can set up your channels however you like. Maybe if you want 2 and 3 on one side of the crossfader, you can do that. If you want 4 and 1 on the other side, you can do that. Or if you want to disable the crossfader altogether for all channels, you can do that as well. Let's move over to the decks. The decks are a club standard layout with ultra long pitch sliders on each deck. In order to access the additional layers of the NS4FX, we have layer buttons on each deck. Right now, I am on layer 2 on this deck, and to access layer 4, I just press the layer button. And the layer button on the left deck will access either layer 1 or layer 3. And those correspond with the channel locations on the mixer section. Next, let's dive into some of the performance pad modes and the looping features. So in the lower right-hand corner of the right deck and the lower right-hand corner of the left deck, we have our loop controls. How this will work, inside of Serato, you'll see that there are different loop divisions. So right now I am controlling loop divisions of deck 4. And in order to activate it, all I have to do is tap the loop button. So let's start this bass line and I'll loop it so it continues throughout the demo. So now we're looped. We can shorten or lengthen our loop by pressing either the half or ×2 buttons. If you want to exit your loop, just tap the loop button. And then if you want to re-engage your loop, just hold Shift and press loop. Now, let's talk about some of the performance pad features. So I'm going to make sure that these 2 channels, 2 and 4, everything's looped, so that's going to continue with the audio. I'm going to assign these to side B of the crossfader. And so when I fade over, we don't hear them anymore. But for this demo, let's go over to the left deck. I'm going to, I have a scratch track on deck 3. So let's jump over to that. So this would be a great opportunity to talk through the performance pad modes. We have cue mode, which will allow you to set cue points.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 until 4.
Momentarily play a cue point by just pressing the pad, holding it down.
1,
Or as the deck is playing.
1, 2, 3 until the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 3, 2. 1.
To delete a cue point, you would just hold shift and press the cue pad. To reset a cue point, move the track to the position where you want the cue point and press the cue pad. Next, let's talk about the auto loop performance pad mode. This mode will set loops based on the division of time that is set inside Serato. So right now the top row is corresponding with a 2-beat loop, a 4-beat loop, an 8-beat loop, and a 16-beat loop. To exit a loop, just tap the pad again and you're out of the loop. The bottom row, if enabled, will adjust the beat jump division and beat jump controls for the track.
1, 2, 3 until the 4. 1, 2, 3 until the 4. 1, 2, 3 until the 4.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Now let's talk about fader cuts. Fader cuts pad mode will allow you to use your performance pads instead of the crossfader for certain scratch patterns. So to emulate, say, a one-click flare, we can just hold down pad 1 and move the sample. Our next pad mode is sample pad mode. Now this will access any loaded samples that you have inside of Serato. With Serato DJ Pro, you can access 4 additional pad modes, including pitch play, roll, slicer, and scratch bank. To access pitch play mode, just hold shift and press the cue performance pad mode selector. To adjust the cue point that is used for pitch play, just hold shift and press the appropriate cue point. Now let's look at the roll mode. To access roll, hold shift, press the auto loop button. Now what roll will do is momentarily repeat a section of the track like a loop, but as soon as you release the pad, you'll return back to the track.
1, 2, 3 until the 4.
And I can shorten or lengthen the roll loop by pressing ×2 or the half button. Next up on the performance pads, let's look at slicer. So I'm going to use deck number, let's see. We'll use the baseline. We'll use deck 4. So I'm on deck 4, as you can see by the center display. I'm going to enable slicer mode by holding shift and pressing the fader cuts button. And you can see that the pads are following the rhythm. So what we can do here is just chop up the beat in real time. And then just release the pad and it'll go back to normal. Next, let's talk through Scratch Bank. Now, Scratch Bank is a great feature in Serato that allows you to load individual samples or tracks to up to 32 different banks that you can access quickly with the pad section. So to access Scratch Banks, just hold shift, press the sample button, and then now each individual pad will correspond with a different sample that I have loaded into my Scratch Bank.
Yeah. Hit me. Yo.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Check the flavor.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Hit me. Yo.
Yeah, man.
Yo.
And if I ever need to get back to my track that I was playing, I can just hold shift and press any of the pads. and scratch bank. And then I'll be back to
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
my original track. Additional features of the decks include these pitch bend buttons. So those allow you to momentarily slow down or speed up the pitch of whatever deck is assigned to the playing deck. Next, we have the scratch button. Now, when enabled, it'll allow you to scratch with the jog wheel or, when pressed again, the entire jog wheel will function as a pitch bend. When in scratch mode, the outer ring also functions as a pitch bend. In addition, on the decks, we have quick access to sync. To turn sync off, just hold shift, press the sync button. And then we also have access to cue. Will take us back to our original cue marker that we set. And if you want to continue from the cue point, say you're doing a stutter effect intro, just hold cue and press the play button, and then it'll continue playing from that point. The pitch bend buttons also have additional functionality. If you hold the shift button, you can adjust your pitch range inside of Serato. And if you hold shift and press the plus pitch bend button, that'll turn key lock on or off. And that covers the features of the Numark NS4FX 4-deck professional DJ controller. If you're an event DJ, club DJ, live streaming DJ, looking for a 4-channel DJ controller with professional inputs and outputs and loaded with features, this is the one for you. Thanks for watching.